The government must act now and end all arms sales to Israel. Anything less is not just a failure of diplomacy, it's an absolute failure of moral leadership in the face of a genocide.
The two-state solution is in peril. Catastrophic conflict in Gaza and a shocking deterioration in the West Bank. This is an affront to the rights of Palestinians, but it is also against the interests of Israelis. So today we are sanctioning Bezalel, Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir. Yeah. We are acting alongside Australia, Canada, New Zealand and Norway, who have also announced their own measures today. These two men are responsible for inciting settler violence against Palestinian communities in the West Bank, violence which has led to the deaths of Palestinian civilians and the displacement of whole towns and villages. This violence constitutes an abuse of Palestinians' human rights. It is cruel, it is degrading, and it is completely unacceptable.
I welcome the sanctions that have been announced on these two individuals, but believe they should go further. The Minister said in his statement that there was no arms now going to Israel, but he was unclear as to the component parts for F-35 jets that are still in the global supply chain and presumably could be bought by Israel. And he was silent on the issue of the use of RAF Akrotiri and the flights that overfly Gaza. Is security cooperation continuing with Israel? Is information being given to Israel that they can use to continue the disgraceful and disgusting bombing of starving people in Gaza?
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman for the opportunity to clarify. The British Government is not providing information to enable the bombing campaign in Gaza. The decisions that we took in relation to arms suspension bind the whole government. They are not just the decisions of the Foreign Office, and they represent a sober, reasoned, serious analysis of the risks of breaches of international humanitarian law, and they bind the government in our approach. I would take brief issue with the Right Honourable Gentleman's characterisation of my remarks. I have been clear on the F-35 point. We continue to be clear on that point, and we indeed have explained it at length in court.
Many of us have been consistent in our calls for sanctions against those that commit war crimes in Gaza. So the sanctions placed on these two far-right ministers today are a step in the right direction. But let us be clear, this is nowhere near enough. Palestinians starve and aid is blocked in flagrant violation of international law, whilst the UK continues to allow arms exports to Israel. We cannot condemn the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza while continuing to arm those contributing to it. The government must act now and end all arms sales to Israel. Anything less is not just a failure of diplomacy, it's an absolute failure of moral leadership in the face of a genocide.
Mr. Speaker, let me be really clear for the House. We are not selling arms, not bombs, not bullets, for use by Israel in Gaza. We have a carve-out on the F-35 programme in order to maintain the programme which both us and so many of our allies benefit from. But where F-35 parts were directly being sold to Israel, that trade is suspended. We are not providing the weaponry that is being used in Gaza. And I want to reassure my honourable friends that I do not think, the government does not think, that the actions that we have taken today will be the golden answer to getting aid into Gaza. It will not be the golden answer for securing a ceasefire. We will continue to work on all of those fronts until we achieve progress.
Ben-Gvir is so extreme that the Israeli government themselves banned him from joining the army. That was 3 decades ago. So if the Minister can please excuse me, I am not going to extend a warm welcome to this announcement. But the matter is this is a matter of trust. The government tells us they're going to cease arms sales to Israel, yet F-35 fight parts get to Israel, massacring young children. The government tells us they're appalled by the actions of the Israeli government, yet front-bench government ministers find themselves partying with the Israeli ambassador and Holocaust trivializers. The government tells us that they are seizing trade deals with Israel, yet the very next week, a trade envoy is sent to Israel, drumming up business. Who is the government trying to fool?
It's a shame the honourable member doesn't feel in a position to welcome these announcements. These are important steps taken with our allies. The UK is leading the world on these issues, and we will continue to do so.
While we welcome the sanctioning of both Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, this really should have happened a long time ago, and it now needs to go much, much further. But further to the previous question, today's announcement highlights the absurdity of the government's position, because the Foreign Secretary recently described those views as being repellent and monstrous, and today's statement accepts that Israel is guilty of human rights abuses and is in flagrant breach of international law. So on what basis, legal or moral, can the government continue to supply F-35 components knowing that the end user will be a regime that they themselves have condemned for espousing repellent and monstrous views, and who they now accept are guilty of human rights violations and are in flagrant breach of international law?
Mr. Speaker, for the purposes of time, I won't address the legal questions, not least given they're being considered by a judicial review. We are confident that the limited carve-out that we have done in order to maintain the functioning of the F-35 programme, vital to our national security and that of so many of our allies, is both legal and proportionate and moral, and we will continue to fight that case in the court.
A British surgeon in Gaza described it as a slaughterhouse. Babies are starving. Roads to aid are being described as combat zones by the IDF. So I welcome the sanctions on Israeli ministers who stated, and I quote, that they are destroying everything that remains in Gaza. Their actions bear all the hallmarks of ethnic cleansing and plausible genocide. It is clear that the majority inside this place want to recognise the State of Palestine, as do many of the public. So will the Minister feed this strength of feeling back to the Prime Minister that we want to recognise Palestine and we want to recognise it now?
I thank my honourable friend for the question, and I know how strongly she feels on these questions, how strongly Luton feels on these questions, as indeed so many in Lincoln, Burnley and elsewhere do as well, and I will take that message.